أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. My dear brothers and sisters, my dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very important question that is often posed is, when was the Holy Quran revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi? In our last episode, we discussed that the Quran was not written by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. Rasulullah is not the author. Rather, the Quran is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, and we discussed that the Quran was revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. And we discussed the forms, the three various forms of how the Quran was revealed to Rasulullah. The question is, when was the Quran revealed? First off, we know that the first verse and the first chapter that was revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi was on the 27th day of Rajab, 10 years before the migration to Medina, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi was in Ghar Hira in Mecca. Allah revealed to him the first verses from Surah Al-Alaq. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. These were the very first verses that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi received from Allah in the form of revelation. On the 27th day of Rajab, 10 years before Al-Hijrah. And of course, he was not by himself. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam was also with him. And he also heard the revelation. He also heard the voice of Jibreel revealing the Quran to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. That is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi tells Amir al-Mu'mineen, he tells him, إِنَّكَ تَسْمَعُ مَا أَسْمَعُ. You hear what I hear. وَتَرَى مَا أَرَى. And you see what I see. وَلَكِنَّكَ لَسْتَ بِنَبِيٍّ وَلَسْتَ بِرَسُولٍ. However, you're not a messenger and you're not a prophet. This day, the 27th of Rajab, it marked the day of revelation, the first day of revelation. The first day that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi became a messenger on that day, by this first revelation. And the last verse and the last chapter, who all Muslims agree upon, the last chapter revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi was Surah Al-Ma'idah. Everyone agrees, both from the Shia school of thought and the Sunni school of thought. All agree that Surah Al-Ma'idah was the last chapter to be revealed. And more specifically, scholars from our school of thought, due to certain narrations, believe that the last verse, the last chapter was Surah Al-Ma'idah. And specifically from Surah Al-Ma'idah, the last verse that was revealed was اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. This verse was revealed on the 18th of Dhul Hijjah, 13 years after the migration of Rasulullah to Medina, a day known as Eid al-Ghadir or Yawm al-Ghadir, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi was coming back from his final Hajj. Rasulullah only performed Hajj twice. This was the second and final time. Rasulullah was coming back to Medina when he was in the middle of the distance between Mecca and Medina, when Allah revealed to him this verse in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ya ayyuha rasulu balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik wa in lam taf'al fama ballaghta risalatahu wallahu ya'simuka min an-nas. Oh, you messenger, deliver the message that has been revealed to you from Allah. And if you don't deliver the specific message, it's as if you haven't delivered anything. وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. If you don't deliver this specific message, the work that you have done for the past 23 years will all go to waste. Now, what is this message? What is this very special message that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa was requested to deliver on that day? It was the successorship of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Ali ibn Abi Talib. The leadership of Ali ibn Abi Talib. That after him, after the death and demise of Rasulullah, the successor, the leader, the Imam, the Khalifa after him shall be Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. That is why Rasulullah stopped in the middle of the desert in an area known as Ghadir Khum. There were Sahaba that were still behind. Rasulullah waited in the scorching sun, in the scorching heat. He waited in the middle of the desert for those Sahaba to arrive. Those that had passed him, he sent someone to call them back. They came back, they all gathered at Ghadir Khum. Rasulullah stood up and he gave a lecture, he gave a speech, and in the middle of the speech, the prime point that he made was he asked, أيها الناس من أولى بالمؤمنين من أنفسهم? Who has priority over the believers more than themselves? Meaning, who has priority in decision making more than themselves? قالوا الله ورسوله أعلم. They said, Allah and His Messenger know best. He said, Allah wa rasuluhu awla bil mu'minina min anfusihim. Allah and His Prophet have priority in decision making for the believers more than themselves. And then he raised the hands of Ali ibn Abi Talib and he said, فَمَنْ كُنْتُ مَوْلَاهُ فَهَذَا عَلِيٌّ مَوْلَاهُ اللهم والي من والاه وعادي من عاداه وانصر من نصره واخذل من خذله. After this occasion, Allah revealed the final verse of the Quran. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Today I have finished your religion. أكملت لكم دينكم. Today your religion has become complete with the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. By appointing Ali ibn Abi Talib as the Imam, religion became complete. And I have finalized my gift, my bounty upon you. وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي. I have completed my grace over you. وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. And I have accepted Islam as your religion. Today, Islam has become complete and finalized. This was the final verse. And this was 13 years after Hijrah. The first verse was revealed 10 years before Hijrah. The final verse was revealed 13 years after Hijrah. This was a period of 23 years. From the first to the final verse. 23 years, the Quran was revealed. However, the Quran also tells us that the Quran was revealed on Laylatul Qadr, on one specific night in the month of Ramadan called Laylatul Qadr. Not a few verses or a few chapters, but the Quran in its complete form was revealed on Laylatul Qadr. The Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna anzalnahu fi Laylatul Qadr, wa ma adraka ma Laylatul Qadr. We have revealed it, meaning the Quran, in its entire form, with all the verses, with all 114 chapters on Laylatul Qadr. In another verse, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. The month of Ramadan, which Allah revealed in it, the Holy Quran, meaning the entire Quran was revealed in the month of Ramadan. In Surah Al-Fatih, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ إِنَّا كُنَّا مُنذِرِينَ فِيهَا يُفْرَقُ كُلُّ أَمْرٍ حَكِيمٍ. The Quran says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran on Laylatul Qadr, on a specific night. Now, is there a contradiction? We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran within a period of 23 years, according to history, according to narrations, from both schools of thought. And at the same time, both schools of thought accept these verses. These verses cannot be altered, they cannot be explained in another way. No, it's very, very clear that the Quran was also revealed on Laylatul Qadr. So is there a contradiction or there's no contradiction? The answer, of course, is that there's no contradiction. Both revelations are correct, both opinions are correct, that the Quran was revealed within a period of 23 years, and it was revealed during Laylatul Qadr in its entire form. That means that the Quran was revealed twice. The Quran was revealed twice. The first revelation of the Quran was an implicit revelation. It was revealed implicitly, meaning that the Quran in its entire form was revealed with all the chapters, with all the verses, but when Rasulullah received it, he received it implicitly, without the details. Some scholars call this al-inzal al-ijmali, that without the details. This is what occurred on Laylatul Qadr, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received the Quran ijmaliyan, implicitly. However, the revelation that took place for a period of 23 years, this was an explicit revelation, with all the details, with all the knowledge. Each verse came one by one, each chapter came one by one, with its knowledge, with its explanation, with all the details. And this is called Tanzilun Tafsili. The first form of revelation that occurred on Laylatul Qadr is called Inzal. Inzal means all at once, a revelation all at once. Tanzil is also revelation, but not all at once, in stages, step by step. And this is the difference. You might ask, my dear viewers might ask, what is the purpose of two revelations? Why would Allah need to reveal the Quran twice? Once implicitly and another time explicitly. Why does the Quran have to be revealed once without details and another time with all the details, with all the explanations, with all the knowledge? The answer is as follows. When Rasulullah received the Quran in a form of revelation on Laylatul Qadr during the month of Ramadan, Rasulullah needed to receive an overall picture of the Quran, an overall picture of Islam. This was a new religion. Rasulullah was just sent as a messenger. Rasulullah needed to get an overall picture of what the Quran is about before beginning his mission. Get an overall picture of the Quran, the overall spirit of the Quran. The Quran has a general spirit. It has a general tone, a tone of guidance, as we talked about. This revelation, before receiving other verses explicitly in detail, Rasulullah was now equipped with knowledge of the Quran, implicit knowledge of the Quran, without all the details, but he knew he had an overall picture, an overall perspective of what the Quran is about, the goal, the ambition, the mission of the Quran. So that when other verses come down explicitly, Rasulullah was already equipped. He was equipped with the general rules, with the general guidelines. Now, is this simply a theory, an opinion, or can it be supported, or is it something concrete that could be supported from the Quran? We see a verse in the Quran that perhaps can support this opinion, that there were two revelations. The first was implicit, the second was explicit. The first revelation gave Rasulullah an overall picture of the Quran, the overall picture of Islam, and the second revelation came with all the details. It came with all the knowledge. We have a verse that says, Kitabun, describing the Quran. Kitabun, أحكمت آياته ثم فصلت من لدن حكيم خبير. The Quran is a book that first, its verses were set strong, أحكمت آياته ثم فصلت, and then they were set into details. And then the details were given. أحكمت آياته ثم فصلت. First, its verses were built strongly, and then their details were given. Perhaps this verse alludes to the two forms of revelation, or the two stages of revelation. The first stage was the implicit stage, the implicit revelation, and the second was the explicit revelation. Now, we come to the second stage, the explicit stage. We know that the Quran was revealed on Laylatul Qadr, and this was the implicit revelation. Rasulullah received the Quran in its entire form, in its entirety, to receive a good understanding of Islam, of the Quran, but without all the details. The details came with the explicit revelation that took place for 23 years. This explicit revelation, al-tanzil al-tafsili, this is one of the distinguishing qualities of the Holy Quran. Because the Torah, the Old Testament, the Injil, the New Testament, they were revealed all at once, not in stages, not in a couple of years, or over a period of X amount of years. The Torah and the Injil were revealed all at once. The Torah revealed to Musa, the Injil revealed to Isa, in one session, in one period, at once, in one time. The Quran is the only book that was revealed over stages, from one date to another date, over a period of 23 years. 13 years in Mecca, and then 10 years in Medina. And if I had stated a couple of minutes ago that the last verse was revealed on the 13th after Hijrah, that was a mistake. The 10th year after Hijrah. This was a period of 23 years that the Quran was revealed explicitly. Why? What is the purpose? Why couldn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is it too difficult for Allah to reveal the Quran, hand it over to Rasulullah all at once, with all the details, with all the verses, with all the knowledge that it contains, with all the explanations, all the required explanations? Was that too difficult? No. It's not difficult at all. The same way that the Torah and Injil were revealed at once, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have easily revealed the Quran all at once. But this did not happen. The Quran was revealed over stages, over 23 years. Why? First of all, this is proof that the Quran is a miracle. The fact that it wasn't revealed all at once. Rather, it was revealed over a period of 23 years. This is a miracle. This is proof that the Quran was a miracle. How? When you have a human author that begins to write a book, and this book takes over 20 years. We have a lot of books, especially with big volumes. These books didn't take 1 or 2 days. These books took several years. For example, Jawahir al-Kalam fi Sharh Shara'i' al-Islam by Sayed Hussein Al-Najafi, also known as Sahib al-Jawahir, who was a well-known marja' in Najaf before the time of Shaykh al-Ansari. This is a well-known book. It's one of the main sources on fiqh today. This book was written for over 20 years. The author took close to 20 years to write this book. However, when the author began with Kitab al-Tahara, the book of purity, and ended with Kitab al-Diyat, the book of paying money to those that you've injured, to those that you've physically hurt. Within these 20 years, or maybe less, maybe more, you could see that the author has changed. Academically he changed. His style of writing, his style of thinking, deducing Islamic laws, it has changed. The end of the book is not the same as the beginning of the book. There's a big difference. You can tell that the scholar has improved. The scholar's intellectual capacity improved and increased. Even his style, his way of thinking, some of his perspectives changed. Why? Because he's a human being. And human beings change. Their opinions, their perspectives, their knowledge increases. This happens. You'll find that in other books as well. But this is just an example. But is the Quran the same way? The first verses that were revealed, are they different from the last verses? Did the tone change? You know, during these 23 years that the Quran was being revealed in. And this is the time when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was delivering the message for these 23 years. The age of the message was 23 years. It had reached 23 years until the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. During these 23 years, there was tremendous amount of changes. Islam began with 3 people, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ali ibn Abi Talib and Khadija. There were only 3 people. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam died, the amount of Muslims was over 200,000. Over 200,000. Because only at Ghadir Khum, Rasulullah had gathered 100,000. So you can imagine if there was only 100,000 of the Sahaba at Ghadir Khum during that year, how many more Muslims were in other places, in the Arabian Peninsula, in the surrounding areas? Maybe close to 200,000, maybe more, maybe a bit less, from 3 to hundreds of thousands. This was a huge victory. This was a huge change. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam led battles. In most of these battles he won. In some of these battles he lost, like the Battle of Uhud. There were conspiracies from outside and from inside towards Islam, towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah migrated from Mecca to Medina. Rasulullah came to Medina, he started a new civilization, a new community. He established a government, and he was at the head of the government. So many changes. You would assume that if the Quran was written by a human being, these changes, these transformations, these emotions that come with the changes, when you're at defeat, you have one emotion. When you're victorious, you have a different emotion. You would expect that these emotions would be reflected where? In your book, what you're writing. But when we come to the Quran, we see that the Quran didn't change its tone. These emotions are not reflected in the Quran. Why? Because only humans have such emotions. When they're in defeat, they have certain emotions. When they're victorious, they have another form of emotions. If you read the memoirs of certain leaders, presidents, prime ministers, you will see the change in the tone of the author. When he was poor, before being in office, he had one tone. Once he's in his office, he has another tone. After office, he has a third tone. It all changes due to the emotions. These emotions are reflected on the book, but the Quran remained the same. Whether at times of defeat or victory, the Quran stuck to its line, stuck to its goal, to its objective, to its mission. The Quran had the same approach. It didn't forget its main goal, and that's guidance, whether it was defeated or it was victorious. The Quran remained the same. And this is proof that the Quran is a miracle. This is proof that the Quran is divine. It is divinely, from divine words. And the words are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The words are not from a human being. This is the biggest proof. That is why the Quran is the greatest miracle for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If other prophets needed concrete miracles, such as a cane that turns into a stick, or curing the sick, then for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his miracle was the Quran. This is number one. Number two, the Quran was revealed into stages for encouragement to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for reassurance. The Quran was revealed over a period of 23 years so that Rasulullah would be walked through the message step by step. Rasulullah wasn't abandoned. This was Allah's message to Rasulullah, to His messenger, that I haven't abandoned you, that I will walk with you, metaphorically of course, figuratively. I will remain with you till the end, give you directions, give you guidance with every step you make, with every decision you make. Wherever you go, you'll receive guidance from us, direct guidance. This was reassurance for Rasulullah, that he wasn't abandoned. He had his Lord looking out after him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send him Jibreel. Jibreel was one of Rasulullah's best friends, of course after Ali ibn Abi Talib. When Rasulullah would meet Jibreel, he would be comforted because Jibreel was the messenger of Allah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would bring him the message, he would give him advice. Rasulullah felt comfortable, he felt strong, he felt reassured, he felt confidence, his heart felt strong. And the Quran says this. The Quran gives us this proof. The Quran gives us this reasoning. The Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَوْلَا نُزِّلَ عَلَيْهِ الْقُرْآنِ جُمْلَةً وَاحِدَةً. And those who disbelieve, they said, why doesn't the Quran reveal upon this man all at once? Why does it have to come into stages? Why does Rasulullah have to keep on waiting for the message, for the verses, for the chapters to be revealed to him? Let all the verses be revealed all at once. But the answer comes, كَذَلِكَ لِنُثَبِّتْ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ وَرَتَّلْنَاهُ تَرْتِيلًا. كَذَلِكَ لِنُثَبِّتْ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ. Ya Rasulullah, we reveal the verse to you in stages so that we make your heart strong, so that we reassure you, so that we're not disconnected with you, so that you will be rest assured that we're connected with you wherever you go. Have you seen some people, wherever they go, they have to have Wi-Fi? They have to be connected to the internet. The moment that they're disconnected, they feel like they're disconnected from the world. Their work, their family, their job, it all depends on being connected to the Wi-Fi. This is a very small example. Rasulullah didn't need Wi-Fi. He didn't need an internet connection. He needed a connection 24 hours a day with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that connection came through revelation, through Jibreel, through receiving verses, receiving chapters. This is a revelation. Instead of receiving the revelation just once and that's it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted Rasulullah to feel comfortable, to feel that He's looking over him with every step. He's walking him through step by step. He felt comfortable. Have you seen a son that moves to another country and he likes to speak to his mother, his father, to his parents? If his parents call him once a month and they speak for 2 hours, is this better? Or they call him every day and speak for 10 minutes. Which one's better? Of course, the latter is better. Even if it's small amounts of communication, but it's on a daily basis. It's better for that son who lives in a far place. He still feels connected to his parents. He's receiving their guidance. He's receiving directions from them. So too was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam receiving directions and guidance from Allah on a consistent basis. At times, the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran would tell Rasulullah to be patient. وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ وَاهْجُرْهُمْ هَجْرًا جَمِيلًا. Be patient, Ya Rasulullah, on what they tell you. Don't lose patience. At other times, the Quran would tell Rasulullah, don't be sad. Because sometimes the mushrikeen, the kuffar, the disbelievers, they would sadden Rasulullah with their vulgar, with their mean words. The Quran says, وَلَا يَحْزُنُكَ قَوْلُهُمْ إِنَّ الْعِزَّةِ لِلَّهِ جَمِيعًا. Don't be saddened by what they tell you. At other times, the Quran reminds Rasulullah that other prophets were patient and he has to remain patient. Just like his predecessors. فَاصْبِرْ كَمَا صَبَرَ أُولِي الْعَزْمِ مِنَ الرُّسُلِ. Be patient the same way that the universal prophets before you were also patient. At other times, the Quran tells Rasulullah that if the disbelievers, they attack you, do not take it personally. They are not attacking you as a person, as a specific person. They're attacking you because you represent Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You represent the truth. You represent religion. This is why they attack you. So do not take it personally. The Quran says, قَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّهُ لَا يَحْزُنُكَ الَّذِي يَقُولُونَ فَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يُكَذِّبُونَكَ وَلَكِنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ يَجْحَدُونَ. They are not rejecting you, but they are rejecting the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are rejecting the truth. So don't take it personally, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa. Furthermore, the Quran is a book of revolution, as we've mentioned. The Quran is a book that was revealed to change people's minds, people's hearts, and people's spirits. The Quran came to change people from bad to good. يُخْرُجُهُمْ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ, to take them out from darkness and bring them to light. Now obviously change does not happen overnight. Change does not happen overnight, especially to the people, with the people that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent to. Pagans who would worship idols. Perhaps they would make an idol out of dates. They would worship during the day, and at night they would eat these dates. They would kill their daughters. They had no manners. They would deal with interest. They were illiterate, and so on and so forth. These were the qualities of such people. To change and transform this nation overnight was impossible. It required time. That is why the Quran was revealed in stages, because change requires stages. It cannot happen at once. It requires patience. It requires step by step. If you have a son or a daughter that misbehaves, that has been influenced by Western culture, by his Western friends, and you like to change the son or daughter, it won't occur overnight or on a weekend. This change requires time, maybe a year, 2 years. Every day, every couple of days, you have to give the son or daughter a dose, a medication. Not a physical medication, but a spiritual medication. Words of advice. Calm, nice, effective words of advice. After 2 years, after 3 years, you see the result. The results don't come overnight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows this. That is why the revelation came in stages. Because change requires time. Change required 23 years, even more than 23 years. That is why the Ahlul Bayt continued the message of the Quran, continued the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and played a vital role in explaining the Quran. Of the Quran was revealed all at once in its entire form, and that's it, with all its laws and principles and messages and theories, it would have lost its effect. But the Quran remained with such an effect because it was revealed step by step for people, for that nation to grasp it, to understand it slowly, memorize it, practice it, and let it dwell in their hearts. Stay with us in our next episodes, which we shall continue discussing the Holy Quran, but more specifically in the next episode we shall touch upon the occasions of revelation. Some verses were revealed for certain occasions. This is what we shall touch upon in our next episode, insha'Allah. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin. Oh, 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 oh.